Welcome back, YouTube. Espresso Shucko here, and today we are tackling the first of the Galarian forms of the original legendary birds. In this case, we're talking about Galarian Articuno. So how have we changed? Well, for one, we have become a much more offensive bird than we originally were with our stats. We have 90 HP, 85 attack, 85 defense, 125 special attack, which regular Articuno was so desperately lacking, 100 special defense, and 95 speed. So we're at an extra 10 points faster than the original Articuno. On top of that, instead of being ice flying, we're now psychic flying, so we're immune to ground. We have a 4 times resistance to fighting. We resist grass and psychic, and then we're weak to dark, electric, ghost, rock, and ice. And each of the Galarian birds only have the one ability. In Galarian Articuno's case, it's competitive. So basically, each time it has one of its stats dropped, it gets a +2 in its special attack. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't work when it's your own Articuno lowering its own stats or Articuno's partner. So it's solely dependent on whether or not your opponent lowers one of your stats, and then you get that +2. And to be honest, that is doable. Intimidate is still a thing, and then there's plenty of other moves. If you go up against Thunderous, especially if they're running Eerie Impulse and they don't realize you have competitive, you're getting a +2, you're neutralizing that Eerie Impulse, so it's going to be neutral. But if they hit you with, say, Scary Face, or maybe a Grimmsnarl hits you with a Fake Tears, you're still getting +2. They hit you with a Spirit Break off of Grimmsnarl or Iron Valiant, you're going for +1 into your special attack by the time that equation balances out, which is rather nice. On top of that, I didn't realize that the Adrenaline Orb is still in the game, so basically, if you get hit with an Intimidate, you get a speed boost on top of that. Not so great on physical attackers, but wonderful for special attackers like Galarian Articuno. And on top of that, before we go any further, yes, your eyes are not playing any tricks on you. That is a Stantler up in the team roster that we'll be talking about. Let's jump on into it. Articuno here has a very, very unfortunate dynamic with Single Strike Urshifu because it's a psychic type. Urshifu is base 97 speed, so even if you run max speed on Articuno, Urshifu will always outspeed you by 2 points, and Single Strike Urshifu does get access to Sucker Punch, so a good Terra type that you might want to run on Galarian Articuno is Terra Fairy. Now, in a perfect world, your opponent leads Single Strike Urshifu with an Intimidator, their Nut Choice Scarf, you get your Adrenaline Orb speed boost, you also get your +2, and then you just spank that Urshifu with a Terra Blast right then and there. That's a perfect world right there. But if that doesn't happen, that's okay, because what we could do is we bring in Stantler. Eviolite Stantler at that. We have a lot of bulk invested into this Stantler, and we also gotta hope they don't KO us. Like, I might actually have to run the damage calc a little bit more into the physical defense on Stantler here, but the idea here is we go for skill swap. We take away Urshifu's Unseen Fist or its partner's ability. We then give them Intimidate. We get the Intimidate onto our Articuno, and then from there, Articuno now gets the speed drop, or the speed boost, not the speed drop, from the Adrenaline Orb. It gets the +2 right there, and then you go from there and just obliterate that Urshifu. Unless it's Focus Sash, and then it lives, but that said, you won't have to worry about it for very long if it is Focus Sash, because you just hit it a second time. So, the main idea for this main moveset here is we have Freezing Glare, which is Galarian Articuno's signature psychic type attack. It's basically a psychic type move that has the potential chance to freeze the target, because, you know, each of the Galarian birds, their effects, with the exception of Moltres, they're kind of reminiscent. Actually, Articuno's is the only one. Articuno's Freezing Glare has the 10% chance to freeze. Zapdos' Thunderous Kick is a defense drop, and Moltres' Fiery Wrath is a chance to flinch. But anyways, they're a little bit reminiscent of the original typings right there in their naming scheme. That's the main thing I was going to go with. But anyways, Freezing Glare is a strong base 90 psychic type attack right there. You have a chance to freeze. You have Hurricane, which I've been talking about on all of these birds. Great option to have, especially if you're playing Rain. If not, you could run Air Slash on this thing. You have Protect, and then basically anything not named Urshifu can not hit you for a turn. And then you have the Terra Blast to just get rid of the Urshifu and any other fighting or dark type that you're worried about, especially if you don't want to risk Hurricane's accuracy. As far as our EV spread goes, we're a mostly heavy special attacking set with 244 to hit 176. Once that hits that first +2 right there, you're going to double your special attack, so you're well over 350 points right there with your special attack. That's almost overkill in a lot of situations, which is just wonderful. You have 143 at +1, you'd outspeed Dragapult, and the nice thing here too is if your opponent's running Regieleki and you go into Terra Fairy, if they run that Electro Web, you're still getting that +2 at the cost of losing your speed, but you still just do absolutely massive amounts of damage to everything else with the combination of Freezing Glare, Hurricane, and Terra Blast. As far as our defensive investment goes, we have 36 into our defense to hit 110 to just try to survive some hits, and then we have 4 into our special defense because that's what's left over just for an extra point. Also, we have that 108 HP right there to hit 179. So we do have some bulk right there. On a different note, with the Stantler idea too, is if you wanted to run Trick Room with Stantler, what you could do is you could go for a room service as the item. So basically here, Articuno would have its speed lower once Trick Room goes up, and Articuno can also use Trick Room as well. But the idea here is we go Trick Room with Stantler. We have the room service kick in. Articuno now loses 1 stage in speed, so it's going to go faster under Trick Room. We can then go for the skill swap idea with Intimidate to further boost up our special attack if we really wanted to. And one thing I will make a note of, because I didn't mention it earlier, is we do have Terra Ghost on Stantler if we're worried about Fake Out. So that is another thing we can do too. And plus, the nice thing is if Stantler leads into Urshifu's still taking an attack drop as well. So if they don't go for the single strike Wicked Blow, you can intimidate them, and then that way you can potentially live a close combat if they decide you're going to go after Stantler as well. So that's a thing too. But back to what I was saying, you go with the Stantler, you set up the Trick Room, you can then use the Intimidate skill swap to further boost up your special attack, and this time we're just going to go max HP, max special attack, and then as far as our damaging moves go, we got the Freezing Glare, we have Air Slash this time, and then that way we're not worrying about Hurricane's accuracy. But if you want to live on the edge or just bring a Pelipper, you could run Hurricane as well. And then we have Shadow Ball for some generic coverage. We can go Terra Psychic if we wanted to, we can go Terra Flying, and then that way we're not necessarily a sitting duck dealing against Urshifu outside of Trick Room. And then we could go Terra Fairy as well, and then just run Terra Blast instead of Shadow Ball. But I digress. You could do that regardless if you wanted to. So that was the main idea with that set right there, with one Trick Room set. And then we could do a Choice Scarf set. And the idea here is you could run Hurricane, Freezing Glare, Shadow Ball, and Trick. And the idea here is if you run into something that you don't like and they are a slower mon, like say Amoonguss, you could just trick your Choice Scarf into the Amoonguss and then lock them into one move. And because Articuno would naturally be faster than Amoonguss, whatever move Amoonguss had clicked that turn is what they're going to be locked into. So if they go for Spore or Rage Powder, well, if they went for Spore, they would definitely be locked into Spore. But if they went Rage Powder, then they only have the one move that they can click from then on, and then they're going to lock themselves into something. So all you'd have to do is maybe just go for a Protect with Articuno's partner and switch Articuno out into something that could be immune to Spore, and then that way, if they're locked into Spore, too bad, so sad, you have to remove your Amoonguss, and you can go from that. On top of that, you get to benefit from having the 50% boost from the Choice Scarf if you don't trick it away, and you can go for Hurricane, Freezing Glare, and Shadow Ball for some raw damage. On top of that, if you wanted to, you could have the Choice Scarf on your Galarian Articuno to increase your speed, and then go with like Grimmsnarl to set up screen support, or go for Fake Tears, so that Galarian Articuno is just going to do even more big damage with its special attacks. So anyways, guys, that was my main thoughts on Galarian Articuno.